Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to Seeking Sikhism. Today we have a special edition of Seeking Sikhism, and we also have a special guest with us as well, Rapinder Kaur. And we're very honored to have Rapinder Kaur with us, so welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And today we're going to be talking about Vaisakhi. And a lot of us have heard that word before, Vaisakhi, and the Sikhs all over the world are celebrating Vaisakhi. But what exactly are the Sikhs celebrating? And what is the importance of Vaisakhi? And what exactly happened in the year 1699 that has significance of linking Sikhism with Vaisakhi? So today we're going to talk about the history of Vaisakhi and talk about many different aspects of Vaisakhi. And as you know, during this time of year, the Vaisakhi time of year, there's a lot of parades that are being held worldwide by Sikhs all over the world are holding parades. And those parades are called Nagar Kirtans. And what does that word mean? We may wonder, a lot of people don't know what that word means. The word Nagar means area, and Kirtan means singing the praises of God. So usually, like when we do Kirtan or singing the praises of God, it's in one place, at the temple or at someone's house. But Nagar Kirtan is when it's sort of like mobile. It's like a mobile Kirtan where people are walking over an area and spreading the word of God and praising God. So, Rapinder Kaur, what exactly is the historical significance of Vaisakhi, and how does that relate to Sikhism?
Okay, well, Vaisakhi has actually lots of significance. So one is the word itself is a Sanskrit word, and it comes from the meaning that Vaisakh itself was a constellation, Vaisakha Nakshatra constellation, and that's when the full moon travels to the Vaisakh constellation. And that's where the origin of the word is. And then we also have a cultural origin, and that is when the farmers are getting ready to harvest their fields and their crops, and there was a huge celebration that happened historically. But as of 1699, it took on a very religious significance to the Sikh community, and that is when Guru Gobind Singh Ji introduced to the world the Khalsa as we see it today, so the physical form. So for many years we'd had many lessons about the internal growth of the Sikh and the qualities that they should have, and then now it was sort of cementing that physical form in the form of the Khalsa, and that's what it really signifies.
Yeah, and the word Khalsa, we've heard that word many times, the word Khalsa. And what does that word mean, Khalsa? Khalsa is actually a Persian word, a Farsi word, and the word means pure. So how do you become a Khalsa? And who is a Khalsa, right? We might wonder. Basically, in this episode, we're going to be talking about all these questions. We're going to answer these questions about what is a Khalsa, how do you become a Khalsa. Basically, a Khalsa is one who takes the baptism of Sikhism, which is known as Amrit Sanchar, or Amrit ceremony. And at that point, a person makes a vow, and also they sort of have like an inner and outer transformation as well, and a person has a certain code of conduct that they follow as well. Now, a lot of times that word code of conduct, and people get really scared of that word and say, oh, code of conduct, it means you have to follow these rules and there's all these boundaries, right? And you know what, if you think about it, having rules or boundaries is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, look at society in general. There's so many different aspects where in society where we have rules. For example, we have driving rules, right? We have certain laws when you drive. We have criminal codes. We have so many different, even like organizations, even schools, they have certain policies and certain dress codes and all these things. So the reason that we have a code of conduct in Sikhism is basically to help us with spirituality. It's like a tool, like an aid to strengthen our spirituality, right? And our ultimate goal in life is to merge with God, to become one with God. So in Sikhism, the concept of having this code of conduct, or the Rahat Maryada, it's more of a way to sort of keep us within the boundaries and make our life easier. Really, that's what Guru Sahib gave us, a code of conduct, to make our life easier so we can attain union with God, because that is ultimately the purpose of life, is to realize our true self. Man tu jot sarup hai, apna mood pashan. Realize who we really are. That soul of God, that light of God is within us. So let's get started here about Vaisakhi. And Rapinder Kaur, maybe you can just answer what exactly happened in 1699 and during the time of Vaisakhi, and it's so significant. It's like a turning point in Sikhism. So can you maybe just explain a little bit about that? What happened in 1699 that's so important to Sikhs worldwide?
Well, if we look at our history from the time of 1469, when Guru Nanak Dev Ji first revealed himself to the world, up until 1699, it's almost 230 years. And in that time, as we saw the Gurus living a way of life, and we saw many examples in the way a Sikh should be and the qualities that they should have. And basically in that time, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, because he knew the future, and he realized and he knew that he was going to one day leave the human form, and Guru Granth Sahib Ji would be our Guru, although we as a Sikh at that time did not realize that. So he knew that he was going to leave us a very strong message and a very strong way in which to continue the religion in the same way that it had when the Gurus were here in the human form.
Really, there's not much of a difference. If you look at the Guru, we never ever considered Guru as the human form being the Guru. It was always the Shabad Guru, right? It was always a message that he gave about Sikhism that was really the Guru.
The most important.
So it's very important that we kind of we link that the Guru was never really in human form, if you think about it, right? Although they may have had like a human body, but it's really the voice of God speaking through that body and relaying that message of Sikhism. Right.
But we must understand for people, visually, for them to have always seen from all the way from Guru Nanak Dev Ji all the way to Guru Gobind Singh Ji with a human body, and then to have to accept the Guru Granth Sahib Ji would be in a different form. That is sort of a transformation for them. And they'd have to go through that process of understanding it and realizing, although we know today that the Shabd is the strongest aspect of it, and the Shabd is still there. And that is what Guruji wanted to instill in us, is that the Shabd and the spirit will always be within Guru Granth Sahib Ji. And for the human form that we were looking for in the Guruji, he said it's in the Panth. If you want to see the Khalsa, Khalsa Mera Roop Hai Khas, within the Khalsa you can see that same image that you're seeking. The physical form.
That's very, it's very beautiful. Like, that day you talked about, 1699, Vaisakhi, right? Let's talk about that day. Like, what exactly happened that day in 1699? Basically, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he called people from all around, from far and wide, to come and gather at the city of Anandpur Sahib. And this took place on Vaisakhi of 1699. At that time, over 80,000 people gathered in that city to see the 10th Guru, Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And they were waiting anxiously for Guruji to come out. But when he did finally appear, he came out with a sword in his hand. And after a very, very passionate speech about standing up for justice and peace, he said to the crowd, "I need one person who is willing to give their head for the truth. Is there anyone amongst you who is willing to sacrifice their head for the truth?" And people were surprised at this. Many people were terrified. The Guru is standing there with a sword in hand, asking for a head. They came from far and wide to see the great Guru, and they were expecting to hear him speak and hear his sermons, and they were not expecting him to stand there with a sword in hand, asking for a head. And many people got scared, and some even left. And Guruji again asked, "Is there anyone here that is willing to give their head for the truth?" Then, out of the crowd, one person emerged, and his name was Bhai Daya Ramji. He came forward and said, "Guruji, my head belongs to you." At this point, Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he took Bhai Daya Ramji into a nearby tent, and he reappeared shortly after that. And when he came out, he has blood on his sword. And many people were in utter shock, and they could not fathom the great miracle that was taking place. Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji then came again and stood in front of that same crowd, and he said that same question again. He said, "I need another person who is willing to give their head for the truth. Is there anyone amongst you who is willing to sacrifice themselves for the truth?" And out of the crowd, a second person, his name was Bhai Dharamdas Ji. He came forward and he also offered himself to the great Guru. And Bhai Dharamdas Ji, what faith he must have had in the Guru. The fact that right in front of his eyes, Bhai Dharamdas Ji, he just finished seeing Guru Sahib taking someone into a tent and coming out with blood on his sword, and he still stood up and he still was willing to give his head. It's a great, great feat of courage, trust, and complete faith. And this happened 3 more times. Guruji asked for 3 more heads, and each time the same thing happened. Guruji went inside the tent and he came out with more blood on his sword. And the 3 other Sikhs that came out, their names were Bhai Himmat Chand, Bhai Mohkam Chand, and Bhai Sahib Chand Ji. And they all came forward to the call of truth. After this, to everyone's surprise and delight, Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji re-emerged along with those 5 Sikhs, and he presented them to the congregation as the Panj Pyare, or the 5 beloved ones. And they were wearing beautiful robes called choles, and they looked absolutely stunning.
Rapinder Singh, one thing to note here is that historically there's always many different perspectives. So there are many people that believe all of this happened out in the open. And when they gave their heads, it was right there in front of the congregation. But that's really not the main point here. The main point is that the heads were given, which is a fact, and the reason for which that was done.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to kind of give both versions here. But at the end, it's really not a difference, really. At the end of the day, the main fact is that Guru Sahib did ask for heads of the Sikhs, and they came and they did give their heads to Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So when Guruji came back out, and when Guruji had those 5 Sikhs there, and he presented them and said, these are the Panj Pyare, these are my 5 beloved ones. And they were dressed up very beautifully. They had the 5 Ks, the Panj Kakars on, and they had that ideal blend of a saint and soldier persona. And on that day, Guru Gobind Singh Ji baptized those Panj Pyare, or 5 beloved ones, by giving them the gift of Amrit, which we're going to explain later on in further detail. And after baptizing them, Guruji did something absolutely amazing. He got down on one knee and asked to also be baptized by this Amrit, and he also went through that same procedure. And after this, he declared that from now on, the Amrit ceremonies will be conducted by the Panj Pyare. Until this day, that tradition continues, where the Panj Pyare are chosen by the Sikh community, and they conduct the Amrit ceremony in the same way it was done in 1699. And these Gursikhs, they gave their mind, their body, their soul to the Guru. They sacrificed everything. And in return, Guru Gobind Singh Ji gave them something, gave them a gift. And it's a gift of Amrit. And before talking about Amrit, there's a few points that you wanted to make about Amrit and about the giving of the heads.
Right, so that's a very significant event here when Guru Gobind Singh Ji asked for the heads. So many people may not understand why there was a need for that. So giving the head exemplifies many things. So one is the spiritual giving, so giving up of the ego and the humbleness and the humility of saying that everything I have I give to you. So when Guru Gobind Singh Ji came out that day, he had a lot of compassion in his eyes. He wasn't walking out there like a madman. He had a lot of love because he knew what he was about to do and the importance of this act that was going to happen and this event. And so basically what was really happening was Guruji said, I want someone who's got that sense of justice inside of them and that is willing that when religion needs, and they've given everything else, so they've donated their time, their energy, their money, but it is still required for them to give their life in order for the truth to remain and to stay and exist, and in order for freedom of speech, freedom of expression to remain in the society, would they be willing to give their life? So giving of the head signifies the death, the ultimate death. Because when you look at someone, if someone said, someone's hand got cut, there really isn't a death that happened there. But we know when someone's head is being given, it is taken away from the body, that there is a complete death. And we saw our 9th Guru, who was the father of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, that he also gave his head for the sake of truth and justice and for the sake of another religion so that truth could remain supreme.
Yeah, I think that the aspect of saint soldier, how the Gurus introduced the aspect of saint soldier, and sometimes people think that we believe in non-violence, we shouldn't have violence at all. But I personally think that believing in that concept, it could be selfish in a way, right? When you say that no matter what happens around me, I'm not going to do anything about it, right? Just worry about yourself kind of thing, right? But Guru Sahib said no, it's a very compassionate thing. The saint soldier aspect is the aspect of compassion, where when we see injustice happening, see somebody else's life in danger, a Sikh never runs away. A Sikh will stand up for the truth and stand up against oppression, and they're willing to give their life for that, right? And it's always out of defense. If you look at all the battles that our Gurus fought, there was never for money or for land. It was always out of protection, out of defense, and standing up for the truth. It's a very, very noble and a very, very great thing. So you were talking a little bit about the Amrit, the importance of Amrit.
Well, just to get back to that point for a second, there's a quote I heard before too, and it said, when there is a conflict between the powerful and the powerless, and you remain neutral, you're actually siding with the powerful, because you know they're all automatically going to succeed. And that's really what this whole event was about, was ultimately, living in this world, no one wants to be aggressive, no one wants to be the aggressor. But unfortunately, there are times when we are having conflict placed upon us. And that is what everything here is about, is what will you do in those circumstances? Will you turn your back? Will you run away? Will you say, if it's not me? It's really saying, raise your conscience to that level where you say, regardless of who it is, I will take a stand for them. And when they gave their head in that physical sense, that is what it was saying, that if I need to give my life so that truth can remain, I will do that.
Yeah, it's very beautiful,
And now,
so about the Amrit, the way we talked a little bit about, we talked about Amrit and how Guru Sahib gave Amrit to these Panj Pyare, and Guru Sahib gave Amrit to the Sikhs. But what exactly is Amrit? Maybe we can describe that in detail. What is the word Amrit mean, and what exactly takes place in the ceremony, in the baptism ceremony, in the Amrit Sanchar in Sikhism? Rapinder Kaur?
Okay, so the word Amrit itself, Mrit means death, to die, and Amrit means to be beyond death. So it's talking about taking the soul that is going through this life and death, because in Sikhism we believe in the soul is going through all these transmigrations, through all these forms, and it's in the human form it can actually recognize God.
Yeah.
So what it is saying is through this Amrit, this is your opportunity to break these shackles of life and death, and that cycle that is continuing.
And attain that union with God.
Exactly,
With God.
attain that union with God. So it's actually like an initiation into Sikh religion. And someone might say, well, why do you need that event in the first place? Why not just, if you're ready, say I'm a Sikh? And I think it's that whole sense of commitment and responsibility. So we see in life, when you make a goal and objective, you will make sure that you are taking steps to reach that goal. So just like when we talk with our friends, if we make statements like, you know what, we'll get together sometime.
Yeah.
Well, when is that sometime going to be? It's very general. It never happens. When we actually say, you know, I will be there at 3 o'clock on a certain day, we are going to make sure we make that commitment. And so when you make the commitment of taking this Amrit and this whole ceremony, you are very aware of what you're doing. You have to reflect on, what is this path I've chosen? What does this mean to me in my life? Why am I taking this? And it makes you more conscientious about trying to achieve those ideals that you have made a commitment to.
And Guru Sahib says, "Kani ho tikhi, wal ho nikki, et marg jana," that this path towards God, it's a very narrow path. It's a very straight path. It's a path that does require discipline of the mind, and requires total focus and commitment.
Right. And that humility, right? Ho sabna ki renka to aao hamare paas. Guruji said, be the dust of the feet of others. So it's talking about that complete and utter humility, and then come on this path, because that's what it's about. It's a path of love.
Yeah.
And Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the very first Guru, he said, Jo to prem khalan ka chao, sir tal tali gali meri aao. And he said, if you really want to play this game of love, because that's what true religion is about. It's based on love.
Yeah.
And this way of life, all the principles and values are guiding us, but ultimately, if you do not have love and compassion for others, then you cannot truly be a truly religious being.
Yeah.
So he said, if you want to play this game of love, then place your head, give me everything, and then come down this path. And that is what this religion is about, and that's what that day was. It was not just this scary, horrible event, which sometimes people perceive it to be.
Yeah.
Really what it was very loving relationship here with a person saying, I give you everything I have, ultimately my life, in order to make sure that religion can be successful in this world.
Yeah, it's the ultimate sacrifice, giving your mind, body, soul, everything, giving it all up for what? For the truth.
Right.
So let's talk about the Amrit ceremony, the Amrit Sanchar. What exactly happens there? And we have some visuals again, I guess, today as well.
Yeah, so we're going to be sharing those. So Amrit itself, in Sikhism, it's sort of like baptism, but it's not quite the same thing. So it's basically, we say Sikhism not a birthright, so you're not naturally born as a Sikh. You must accept this way of life, and then you can truly understand it. And there's obviously a way of life and a code of conduct we'll talk about later, and we'll explain more so what you're making the commitment to. And so basically, the way Amrit was prepared that day is the way that it's still prepared today. At that day, Guru Gobind Singh Ji did it, and from that day forward, those 5 beloveds always do it, and those that are representing them. So the first thing that's most important is the bata, the iron bowl. And
let's make it visual here. We got the actual stuff, the things we use at Amrit Sanchar here as well. So we're gonna
put a sheet here just out of respect.
Oh my goodness,
and it's heavy. So
I'm gonna take a break here.
Okay. So as you can see, it's made of iron, and iron is a very pure element, and that is why it is used. And as well, what happens is the first ingredient that's placed in here is water, and water is very fluid. Water takes on many properties, and the water is going to become Amrit with all the other ingredients. By what? By the process that's going to happen, which is what we're going to talk about. That what takes water and makes it into Amrit, which is sort of like holy water, but it's even more so, because we're saying it's giving us a new life. It's giving us a rebirth, if you can call it that. And water itself represents calmness and acceptance as well. And then what's also placed in here is Patasya. And on that day, Mata Saad Kaur is considered the mother of Khalsa. She is the one that placed that in there. And what are patase? So sugar. If you take a look at sugar, it can take many forms. We say sugar cubes. So it's sugar that's solid, and it's in a round shape.
Kind of like a puff, like a sugar puff.
Sugar puff almost.
Yeah.
So it's placed in here, and that adds sweetness and that compassion that a Khalsa is supposed to have.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about the warrior spirit, the soldier spirit, it has to be with complete understanding, and that is only how humanity can exist in this world.
And once the water is in there, patase are in there,
right.
and then after that, what it is, it's not just about having patase, having sugar and water together. Like the most important thing is the bani, right? It is the recitation. It's the word of God that's being recited, and also we have the khanda as well. Let's talk about the khanda. Maybe you can tell us about the khanda a little bit here.
So the khanda is, and that's actually usually quite a lot bigger than this, but Rapinder Singh thought he'd have a hard time carrying it, so got a smaller one for him.
I gotta hit the gym.
So it's a double-edged sword, and it represents equality. So in the whole Amrit ceremony, women, men, individuals of all castes, everyone comes equally. So it's representing that equality, and also the way in which it is used. So when it's used to mix the water and the sugar, and when that is happening, it's not a circular motion.
Yeah,
so
it's more of like a
forward and back, and it's
motion.
also clanging against the iron bowl. And that clanging is that representing that warrior spirit. You can call it the sense of justice that should be in each individual, added with the sweetness, the compassion for humanity at the same time. And when it goes forward and back, when it's coming towards you, you're basically saying, I'm accepting all these great qualities that an individual should have. So the sense of humility, humbleness, compassion, kindness, all those qualities, and taking away all those qualities that are not sort of beneficial to mankind. So this sense of inequality, having caste systems, all those things that are considered that hold man back from joining with God and moving forward in their spirituality.
And I guess while Guru Gobind Singh Ji was mixing, or Guru Gobind Singh was mixing the Amrit and the patase were dissolving in the water, Guru Sahib had his full focus, concentration on the Amrit being prepared, and it was the Bani, it was the word of God that he was reciting, and it was a Panj Baniya that Guru Sahib recited that day. Japji Sahib, Jap Sahib, the Swaye, Chope Sahib, and An Sahib.
Right.
And it was a power of those Banis, a power of those prayers that was going inside the Amrit and ultimately making it Amrit.
Right. And that's the most integral part of it. And they say the eyes are the windows to the soul. So your eyes are always constantly on the Amrit. So when it's being prepared today by the five beloved ones, the Panj Pyare, their eyes are always on that Amrit, and it's transforming from that water through this whole process into that Amrit.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I think Rapinder Singh, you're going to explain a little bit about how it is administered.
Yeah. So after the Amrit is prepared, after the Banis are read, those prayers are read, the Amrit is prepared, now it's time to give the Amrit, to administer the Amrit. And what happens at that point is the person who's receiving Amrit, they would come up and they would get down and beat us, and sort of like coming like kind of on one knee, and you're in a sitting position.
Your right knee is down.
Yeah, your right knee is down, and you're sitting down in that position. And what you do is you come and you are taking that Amrit, you receive that Amrit. And how do you do that? There's 3 different ways that it is given by the great Guru. The first way is by taking the Amrit into the mouth. So you kind of make it like a kind of cup your hand, and the Amrit is poured there, and you drink the Amrit. And every time you drink the Amrit, the Panj Pyare, they will say, Bol Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. And a person, when they drink the Amrit, they would repeat that, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. And what that means is that Vaheguru means, it basically describes God. 3 words, Vahe, Gu, and Ru. Vahe means like wonderful, wow, something amazing. Gu means darkness, and Ru means light. So the word Vaheguru means the wonderful light that dispels the darkness, and we relate that to God. So we say Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, that the Khalsa belongs to God. Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, that victory is also God's, right? So
all victory is by the blessing of God.
All blessings by the victory, yes. And after the Amrit is drank 5 times, and then after that the Amrit is also splashed into the eyes, right? So there's actually significance of all these things. When it's splashed into the face or in the eyes, it's kind of like telling us, see God in all, right? And there's a quote that says, if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. So it's about like seeing with pure eyes, right? Having that purity in your eyes. And lastly, the Amrit is also poured on top of the head as well, in the case, in the hair as well, on top of the head. And so these are basically the 3 ways that the Amrit is administered. And a very beautiful thing is, after that, when people come and take Amrit, when they receive the Amrit, you might think, what happens with the leftover? How about the Amrit that's still left in there? What do you do with that? And I think what Guru Gobind Singh Ji is so beautiful, what he did, what basically happens is everybody stands in a line, and they all take turns and they drink from the same bowl, from the same bata, they drink, and that's a sign of equality, right? Because those Panj Pyare that came forward that day, a lot of times people believe in a caste system, and our gurus, they abolish that system. They go, there's no caste system, nobody's higher, lower, everybody equal. We are all children of God, right? And Guru Sahib strengthened that. That aspect was strengthened when everybody, no matter what, like, before that never happened. A person who somebody would consider quote unquote low caste or high caste, they would not drink out of the same bowl, or they would not share utensils like that. And Guru Sahib was showing us the equality. Everybody drinks out of the same bowl until the Amrit is all finished. That this ceremony is open to people of all backgrounds. And if you see now in the world, there's thousands of people who are non-Punjabi, who are non-Indian background. So there are many people of Caucasian background or of African descent or also of Asian descent who have chosen this path and are living life according to those teachings. And it's a very, very beautiful thing to see, of that diversity in the Khalsa, that diversity in Sikhism. And another thing about Sikhism is we don't convert. Right? In Sikhism, we don't actively go out and convert people. So people who want to join the Sikh religion, I mean, all our arms are wide open from the Sikh community, but a Sikh never goes out and tells somebody, if they're a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu, and say, hey, leave your religion and join us. No, we say, you know what, more power to you. If you're a Christian, be the best Christian you can be. If you're a Muslim, be the best Muslim you can be. So we kind of encourage them, right? At the same time, this is our path. So different paths that sort of lead to that same goal, that lead to God, right?
And one of the main reasons for that too is religion is really based on love. If you have a passion for something, we see it in school even, right? With children, if they have a passion for a certain subject, they do much better at it because they really are involved with it and they're motivated intrinsically to do that. So just like that, if you go to someone and say, if you do not convert, we will either kill you or punish you or there'll be a consequence, and they're being forced to practice something and there's no love, then how far can you really get in that? So it's really saying that love is the foundation. So live your lives the way you want to. It's your personal journey. And if others see that and they're interested, then that is fine. But don't go out there trying to, push people, force people, whether it's verbally or physically in any way. Because what kind of way would they even practice that religion? Forced to convert to.
It comes from the heart, really. Exactly. At the end of the day, it comes from the heart. You can't teach love to somebody, right? You can inspire or you can encourage people. So you can't really teach love. It comes from the heart. And actually, we're out of time now, so we got to actually finish it up. But anyways, this is going to be part 1 of 2. We're going to have next week, we're going to be back, and we are going to be basically going deeper into the code of conduct and the philosophy behind the baptism or the Amrit Sanchar, and also the modern day significance of how it relates to us at this time. So we have a lot more stuff to talk about next time. I'll talk about the Panch Kakars and about the code of conduct and many different things that we're going to talk about next time. So anyways, we're out of time. And Rapinder Kaur, thank you very much for joining us this week. And we'll see you guys again next time with part 2 of the special Vaisakhi edition of Seeking SIkhism. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.